Hi, this is Kent, and welcome to this session of Deepening Your Spiritual Toolbox. And I'm recording this from one of my favorite places out in the Beverly Commons woods. And it's kind of a chilly day. It's in early May in New England. It's a little bit rainy. I'm getting sprinkled on as I am recording this. But it's still such a fabulous place to be. Got a cup of hot coffee. And today we're going to be talking about being lost. Do you remember the last time you were lost? Do you remember what it felt like? We're going to be talking about what it means to be physically lost, where we ask the question, where am I? I don't know where I am. And we're going to be talking about what it means to be emotionally lost. I don't know what to do. I feel overwhelmed. I feel confused. And we're going to be talking about what it means to be spiritually lost. I don't know what I believe. I don't know if I believe in God. I don't know if I have a spiritual life. Where do you feel lost in your life? And what does it feel like for you? I remember being physically lost on a backpack trip. And one thing my family and friends will tell you is that it's not unusual for me to get lost. I get so caught up in the beauty of where I am, looking around, that sometimes I lose track of the map and I go up the wrong path. And then I have to figure it out. Sometimes it's not a big deal, but sometimes the consequences are big when we're lost, right? I was backpacking with my buddy in the Wallowa Mountains in eastern Oregon. And we took the wrong path. We thought we knew where we were going, but we didn't. So we bypassed a stream of cold mountain water because we knew that we were going to drop down into a valley where there was a river and we'd be fine, and it wasn't too far away. But we missed the turnoff. And so we found ourselves midday, high altitude, 95 degrees, the sun beating on our heads, and we ran out of water. We could see the stream, the ribbon of that river about a mile below us, but we didn't know how to get there. I noticed that my buddy wasn't thinking clearly. He was dehydrated. And I knew that I was on the verge of being dehydrated too. And so my first impulse was to panic. My first impulse was to start running around. But I knew that one of the hallmarks of survival was to keep you cool. And so my buddy and I began to work the problem, to figure out how to get to water, how to get down to that river with the least amount of energy. And so we worked the problem, and eventually we found our way to the water source. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. But here I am. But I remember the feeling of being lost. How about you? And what about emotionally? We're kind of moving our way through this pandemic. It's been going on for 15 months. It's so disorienting, right? It's so anxiety producing. Oftentimes we feel lost. We're out of our routine, right? We don't know where to go or what to do. We don't know what the future will hold. I remember when I was, about 15 years ago or so, I was having surgery. And the doctor had said that usually you're out in about 3 days. But I remember I was still there at day 5. And I began to wonder whether I would ever get out. My worry beads were really being worked at 3 in the morning in that hospital. On day 5, it was about 3 in the morning. I was walking around the nurses' station, up and down the hallways. And visitors had long ago gone home. And as I made my way gradually, time and time again, around that nurse's station with that surgical gown on, which is not very complimentary, is it? And I had my IV pole with me, and I'm just making the rounds, just trying to make it through the night. There was a woman in the doorway, and it was as if she had just come from a party. She had this beautiful cocktail dress on, and she had a beautiful red scarf. Her hair was raven black hair. And I imagine that she had just kind of broken the rules a little bit and come in to visit a loved one in the early wee hours. And I made one pass by her, and then another. And then she looked at me. She had beautiful dark eyes. And she said, "You're going to be okay. It's going to be all right." I felt so lost. And I made my way again around the nurse's station, and I came back to the doorway. But the woman had gone. But that phrase, "you're going to be all right," has stayed with me. Which brings me to the question about being spiritually lost. Do you ever find yourself struggling with what you believe? Whether what you believe about God, the Creator, Spirit, whatever name you use, was perhaps imposed on you by others. Perhaps by parents, or perhaps by a teacher, or something you had read in the past, but you're not sure what you believe. So I can only share out of my own experience. I can't tell you what is true for you. I can tell you what is true for me, and how being lost has been an uncomfortable time, but also a time to learn some lessons for me. When I look back on that experience 15 years ago, and that stranger in the doorway greeting me, encouraging me, for me, the takeaway is that great mystery we call Spirit, God, was speaking to me through this stranger, through this woman, in the most unlikely of places, at the most unlikely of times, to tell me that I wasn't alone. I can't prove it, I can't measure it, I can't quantify it, and I don't feel the need to, but that's my story. That night when I felt most alone, most disoriented. I'd like to suggest that when we feel lost, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, that can be a time of meeting. I'm a pastor, I'm a person of faith, so I believe this to be true, but not because I should, but because it grows out of my own experience. I think of a poem by the great beat poet. Gary Snyder wrote this poem, "The Trail is Not a Trail." Listen to these words. "I drove down the freeway and turned off an exit and went along a highway till it came to a side road, and I drove up the side road till it turned to a dirt road full of bumps and stopped. Walked up a trail, but the trail got rough and it faded away. Out in the open, everywhere to go." Out in the open, the familiar slips away. And the paradox is that in the unfamiliar, in those moments of dislocation and being lost, we may find our way. We may find resources that we didn't know we had, abilities, that ability to calm down when we want to panic, that ability to rely upon others for guidance and support and community, that ability to be noticing what is going on around us with fresh ears and open eyes. Perhaps to realize that what was familiar really, that familiar path is a path we really don't want to be on. That this new path, this new way is more life-giving for us. Being lost can open up some new possibilities to us. In being lost, we may find that that great mystery we call God, Spirit, Creator, is entering into our lives in the most unlikely of times, in the most unlikely of places, through the most unlikely of people. Was that woman who was in that hallway of the hospital at 3 a.m, seemingly just come from a party, was she a gift of God to me? Was she a messenger of God to me, offering me encouragement, blessing me in the midst of my fear? I can't prove it, but my heart tells me she was. Or she was a stranger who saw my plight and knew just what to say. Either way, I'm grateful. And 15 years after feeling so lost, that lonesome night in that hospital ward, I remember that when I needed it most, a stranger came to me to bless me, to restore me, and to grace me with hope. So I don't know where you're lost in your life, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. But my prayer for you, my prayer for myself, my prayer for all of us during this time is that we'll open our eyes, our minds, our hearts to the blessings, the gifts that are all around us. And to be open to the possibility that even being lost can be a place of spiritual renewal. So I wish you well, my friends. I wish you hope. I wish you good health. And thanks for tuning in. Be well.